sequels that were better than the original. But it's very, very uncommon for this to happen. Normally sequels are worse off than the original, most people find. That being said, there's actually a lot of situations where the sequel blew the original right out of the water. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. So, right away, we are going to start with Toy Story 3. Now, some people might get heated on that one, because I know the Toy Story series is pretty definitive. They're all pretty good movies, but in my opinion, Toy Story 3 was the best Toy Story movie, and I can't believe we've went from talking about The Little Mermaid to Toy Story on the fucking Dilly show. What is happening? Toy Story is the GOAT, though. Toy Story 3 is the best Toy Story. It grabs you by the fucking heart, and it rips your goddamn heart out of your chest. It's the saddest movie, it's the most touching movie, but it's the funnest movie to watch. I do very much love the first two. I think the first one... I'm trying to think about which of my favorite ones. Which one was my favorite? Like, other than the third. It was either... I don't know. It's hard to decide. I think the first one was pretty solid. Definitely a lot of improvements in the second one. But I definitely just think the third one was definitive. And I mean, I haven't seen Toy Story 4, so I can't really put that on the list here. But Toy Story 3 is definitely the definitive one. And moving on from Toy Story 3, we are now moving on to Harry Potter 3. Prisoner of Azkaban has to be the best Harry Potter movie. It was one of the first ones I really sat down and watched as a kid, but I loved it, and I still do. It is still my favorite to this day. It's a lot darker than the other two. The cast seems like a lot older, even though it only... I think they put it out like 2 years after the second one, and like they grew a lot in that time period, and it's a very darker movie, but it's very good. It's definitely one of the best Harry Potter movies by far. This one, of course, has Sirius Black in it, and I mean, I'm not going to go too much into the plots of these movies, just that Prisoner of Azkaban is probably the best Harry Potter movie. Definitely beats the original. That being said, I've actually been going back and watching the Harry Potter movies recently with my girlfriend. We haven't gotten to the third one yet. We're actually going to be watching the third one soon. It's the next one. We watched the first and second, and I just remembered, like, now that we're rewatching them again, they're so different. Like, every movie is so much different than the one before it. And I mean, I don't know if that was really intentional. I mean, I'm sure it was, but they're all very different. Like, the first one is just, you know, kids going to school for the first time. They're suddenly introduced to this danger. And the second one's like, oh, we went through this, now we can get through that. And it's hard to explain, but every movie, like, if you watch them all back to back to back, none of them feel the same. Like, they all feel different. And the third one, just, I love the style of it. I love the cast. I love everything about the third one. So, third one's definitely my favorite, I would say. Another sequel that beat out the original was Terminator 2. Terminator 1 is a all-time classic movie, but I think everybody knows that Terminator 2 is the definitive Terminator movie. It wasn't topped beforehand, and it hasn't been topped since. Definitely my favorite thing in the movie, I think, is Ed Furlong. I fucking love Edward Furlong. I don't know why, I just do. I love him so much. And he is John Connor in that movie, obviously. And he adds a big twist to the Terminator character. Like, in the first Terminator movie, Terminator is a robot. That's his whole thing. He is in the second one too, believe it or not. But when he meets John Connor, he has to defend John Connor. He has a personality almost. Like, Arnie finally gets to show some personality in movies. And it's just such an interesting dynamic between the two. And I love it to bits. Not to mention, the cop, Patrick Stewart, is in that movie. He's fucking one of the GOATs as it comes to movie villains. Definitely Terminator 2, T2, is the superior Terminator movie. Also, one of the early episodes of The Dilly Show is named after it. So, there we go. Another sequel that beat out the original is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight The Dark Knight, in my opinion, is the greatest Batman movie ever made. I have seen the new one. New one was fine, but it does not come anywhere near The Dark Knight. Nothing does. Batman Begins was essentially the original in that series. They did so many fucking Batman series, and some of them weren't even series. Some of them were just kind of one-offs. Like, there's so... The Batman series is probably the most fucked up movie series in history. Just the amount of actors that kind of came and went playing as Batman. Started off as fucking Michael Keaton, then went to... Shit, who was the second one? It wasn't Val Kilmer. I don't think. It might have been Val Kilmer. Maybe. It went... Okay, there was Michael Keaton, there was Val Kilmer, George Clooney was there for a minute. Was there another one in that time period? I don't feel like there was. And then it went off to Christian Bale, who did it for a few movies, and then Ben Affleck took over, and now Robert Pattinson took over. It's a whole clusterfuck. Dark Knight is Christian Bale. I love Christian Bale. He's not the best actor in the world. I know a lot of people see him as being like very good, and I'm not saying he's not very good. I personally wouldn't say he's my favorite actor. Every movie he does just feels like American Psycho to an extent, and I mean, that's what he's best at, so maybe that's why. I don't know. Maybe it's just because American Psycho is so iconic in my eyes. I don't know. But every movie he does seems like American Psycho. But he is good as Batman, because, I mean, you can do that with Batman. And, of course, Heath Ledger's Joker. Don't even get me started. Best Joker incarnation ever. And I'm not just saying that. It's because, literally, not that there's no Jokers to compare him to. Because, I mean, there was fucking... Why am I forgetting his name right now? Fucking guy from The Shining. Jack Nicholson. I knew his name was Jack something. I couldn't think of his last name. I love Jack Nicholson. His Joker was incredible too. Don't get me wrong. Then there was Jared Leto's. And I mean, I love Jared Leto, but holy fuck, that was bad. And then, has there been any Jokers since then? I don't think so. Unless you count the Gotham series, which I don't because it's gross. But Heath Ledger's Joker. Jesus Christ, he's good. That movie is incredible, and it's pretty obvious as to why. His Joker, Christian Bale's Batman, they work so fucking well together, and it's such a weird pairing of actors, but it works so well. And, like, they're both incredible in that movie. And the movie itself is incredible, incredibly written, a lot of really suspenseful scenes, and I love it. It's perfect. Next is Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, the first Top Gun wasn't incredible. It was typical 80s action movie. Top Gun Maverick actually adds like a lot of story to it. And I mean, a lot of it's kind of dumb. I think it's dumb they didn't bring back the original girl, even though she's old looking. She doesn't look the best. It doesn't matter. She should have been brought in for it, I think. I think it's kind of fucked up that they didn't. Goose had a kid, which was odd. Miles Teller was the kid, which is odder. Miles Teller's okay, but it was weird. But I do think Maverick was really good. They didn't try to make it too different from the original, which is good. Like, there's still a lot of flying, a lot of suspense, but a lot of it was really good. And there's actually a lot of throwbacks to the original, which, I mean... That's gonna happen when you remake an 80s movie in 2020s. Like, that's gonna happen. That's why the movie's made. But it was fun, because I had watched the first one for the first time the night before I went to go see this one in theaters. And, like, I was like, holy shit, they did the flyover thing. That was so cool. Like, it got me. I don't usually get got by modern movies that are just selling... based on pure nostalgia, but I bought into it. It was good. And the last one today, and it's one that I'm going to have a bit of a talk about. Spider-Man 2. Definitely beats the first one. The first one was great, but second one is looked at as being the definitive Spider-Man. Now here's the thing. what would you say if I told you Spider-Man 3 is better than Spider-Man 2? I need to do a whole episode based on Spider-Man. And I'm probably going to, at some point, ranking all of the Spider-Man movies. But here's the thing. I know Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie. I know this. Everybody knows this. I prefer the third one. And I don't know why. And I know there's a lot of things about it that got seriously fucked up before it came out. Like Venom being tiny. That was definitely the main thing. Emo Peter, who a lot of people hate, but I love because I understand it. I understand why it's the way it is. But we're not going to talk about Spider-Man 3. I'll talk about that in a different episode, I swear to God. Spider-Man 2. It's great. Peter Parker. We got Dr. Octopus, who is Jesus Christ. He's my Lord and Savior. I love him so much. Everything about the original 3 Spider-Man movies is incredible. Spider-Man 2 kind of works off the story of Spider-Man 1 and works into the story of Spider-Man 3. I love the 3 of them. It's hard to talk about just one in particular because they all work so well together. There's so many stories that just escalate up until the third one. But Spider-Man 2 does great for what it is. It is the backbone of that trilogy. If it didn't exist, that trilogy would have fell on its ass. Dr. Octopus, played by Alfred Molina, is amazing. When they brought him back for the new Spider-Man movie, I cried a little bit because holy shit. Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man 2, oh my god. He looked way too old to be Spider-Man, but I'm okay with it. It was fine. Tobey is the best Spider-Man. I don't care what anybody says. It is fact that Tobey is the best Spider-Man. And the second movie proves it. You got pizza time right away. That's like the fucking first scene of the movie. Like, that's how you know you're on to something good. Not to mention, I know this doesn't really relate to the movies, but the Spider-Man 2 video game is one of the best Spider-Man games ever as well. It blew the first one out of the water because you could actually web swing, but it's not about the games, it's about the movies. Just, Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie. Everybody knows this. It's a well-known thing. Because the new movies are fine, they're great. The Andrew Garfield ones, we don't care about those, but Andrew Garfield himself is good, I guess. But Tobey's 3. Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Perfect movies. Spider-Man 2 is the pinnacle of those movies. I can agree with that. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually the end of the show. That was the last sequel that was better than an original. If you disagree, let me know. Send me a tweet on Twitter at @thisisdilly. And while you're there, make sure you follow my Twitter, of course. Follow me on Instagram at @thisisdilly as well. And I just burped.